It's the 16th of August 2012. Outside the Lonmin Platinum Mine in Marikana in South Africa, 112 striking miners are shot down by police. 34 die. Like many other South Africans, the shooting shook me to the core. Events like this took me back to the massacres of apartheid. Sharpeville, 1960. Soweto, 1976. Killings like these led South Africans to support Nelson Mandela and his struggle for freedom. But today, these miners are being shot at by our new government to ensure that it's business as usual. We could see that lives were now being sacrificed for money, and that the young democracy we had so much hope for was under threat.
The SAPS did all in its power to avert a situation such as this, and the police members had to employ force to protect themselves from the charging group. This is no time for blaming. This is no time for finger pointing. It is a time for us to mourn the sad and dark moment we experience as a country.
The Marikana Commission of Inquiry has sat for over a year. South Africans watch in a state of shock. Have the police been honest in their account? No, they have not. The big question remains: who sanctioned the order to use live ammunition against the strikers?
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, my name is Dumisa Ntsebeza. I appear for the following families: Mgcineni Noki, Mongezeleli Ntenenja, Bongani Ngongophele, Tebisile Yawa, Jackson Leupa, Semi Chokanis, David Fezile Sapendo.
Good morning, it's Friday 10th of August 2012.
It's 6 days before the massacre. The mining company, Lonmin, is filming the miners as they gather outside the mine. A Lonmin security guard reports everything he sees.
Awaiting SAPs and backup to see if we can stop the crowd.
A crowd of rock drillers meet and march to the Lonmin management office. They believe the official majority union, the National Union of Mine Workers, are in the pockets of management, and so they've decided to take matters into their own hands. They are joined by workers from a competing union.
Complain ngemali yama-LTO encane eyi-4,000. Sathi at least make simuvisele imali ngoba umsebenzi sobenzayo ko-operator. Kodwa ke okubalulekileyo siyamazi umqeshi akazoba nayo le mali straight. Enye nenye nayo sobonisana nayo because sinemali encane kakhulu. Sabe sinenjongo uba at least ibifikile ku-7,000.
Only rubber rounds, low density rubber rounds, no SSG, no AAA. All of us declared. Only rubber roer.
siphumesa bayi-5 sathi asiza athi ufika nabo uba sifuna ntoni. Wathi why nilapha singestrike sona ngamaphepha simphendule egama elithi no thina asifundanga njengoba sisi-LDO because of what asifundanga. Naw nangoku awuzusixelela nge-5 zamaphepha uba masifunda apha thina asifundanga into ebhalwe asiyazi. Umuntu omnyama usebenza kabuhlungu, usebenzele bukhoboka toti kufumanise kutatakho uyosebenza bengumtshini boy uyoda yofa okanye goduke engulo mtshini boy nawe uzotyiwa indlala pha kwenu ubone bayikhona. Mandiyeke lento bendiyenza noba bungangabe bufunda boma mandiyeke esisikolo ndihambe ndoba ngumtshini boy pha la kwezanto zamayini uphathwe ngunyana wala mntu ebephethe utatakho.
Lonmin is a British company which started drilling for platinum in South Africa 30 years ago. It employs 28,000 people, exporting the world's most precious metal out of the country and around the globe. The company has spent large sums of money on a massive program of expansion, leaving it financially vulnerable. The prospect of a long strike was the last thing they wanted. The story of the Maracanã massacre would be incomplete without a close look at the involvement of Cyril Ramaphosa. I had watched him with admiration as he built the largest trade union the country had ever seen, the National Union of Mine Workers. Under Cyril's leadership, NUM saw the miners join the fight against apartheid, and I took my place marching side by side behind their banner.
It must be remembered that it was the mining industry, and specifically the Chamber of Mines, which pioneered the most oppressive features of apartheid South Africa.
Viva Comrade Sisulu, viva! Viva! Viva Comrade Mutlatsi, viva! Viva!
Mine workers have always had to put up with harsh living and working conditions. Cyril Ramaphosa was determined to change this. Under his leadership, workers were led into mass strikes and direct confrontation with the white mine owners. He was, for me, a vital and important person in the birth of the new South Africa.
There's no such thing as a liberal bourgeois. They are all the same. They use fascist methods to destroy workers' lives.
He soon became a leading member of the African National Congress, and from this position joined the black economic elite. Ramaphosa, who once saw South Africa's working class as a force to bring about change, now found himself on the other side of the table. At the time of the massacre, he was a board member of Lonmin.
We've gone through our waves of strikes, and we always have strikes because we have such a robust democratic system that allows workers to express themselves. And people should never be alarmed. This is the South African way, and we need to accept that. Workers will voice their dissatisfaction through withdrawing their labor. What we are against is that quite a number of those strikes have tended to turn violent. That is one behavior pattern that we need to get out of our system.
On the second day of the strike, 3,000 miners marched to the local NUM office to confront their union about lack of action over wages. They are shot at by NUM officials, who insist they were acting in self-defense. Rumors spread that 2 strikers had been killed.
Sibalekile ngosikhathi siphinda dibana foot in the side here. A grounding after izankomo. So planning don't is bad. Siyohlala entabeni because napha stadium sihleli khona ngesazi masohlala entabeni intaba yona ayixoxisi ngekanoma ngubani.
Believing that their comrades had died, violence further escalated on the Sunday when 2 Lonmin security guards were killed. Every time the miners gather, the Lonmin security guard keeps a keen eye on them.
After a shooting incident of 2 people allegedly from Korea area, the situation is fairly calm at this stage. No direct threat to security.
As a reaction to NUM shooting at their own members, the conflict grows. Lonmin rock drillers from the nearby Kari shaft join the strike in numbers. They belong to the competing union, the Association of Construction and Mine Workers Union, AMCU. AMCU's leader, Joseph Matunjwa, like Ramaphosa 20 years before him, is fighting the system and believes NUM has become far too close to mine management and government. He soon becomes an important player in the unfolding events at Marikana.
Comrade, when we voted 1994, we thought that the working class is liberated. The only thing that we benefited is to change the administration which was run by the white collar. That is our challenge now. Masesibona ukuthi sesizoyithola inkululeko sizobona ngokushintsha isystem.
It wasn't as if the 16th was a day isolated from context. You have to look back to the Monday before that Thursday, when a group of 150 to 200 miners went from that copy to Korea 3 mine, where they heard there were still some miners working and they wanted to tell them to down tools. Intimidation, solidarity, you can call it what you want. They were turned back by the security of the mine, who told them, go back with that route. They went back with that route. Halfway back to that copy, they were met by a cordon of police, unusually led by the Deputy Commissioner for the Northwest, General Mpembe.
Asizanga sithi sizolibamba. Kodwa sinenkinga. Inkinga yethu yilezi zinto eniziphethe. Azikho emthethweni. Thina amadlala lapho londawo kuhlala. Kana mgqibelo. Thina buyile lapho londawo kwathina. Labantu lama-security kana mine. Yena fikile dubula thina nalabantu kalonawo. Bana bulala two muntu lapha ngathina. Yena londawo thina phathina lento lo. Thina ilwile nalo muntu.
Yebo baba.
Number 1. Lina maphoyisa straight. Thina khona lapha ka road me. Thina lungisa lo marika thina lapha road me. Thina jopa phasi mgodi. Thina iyilwa
And you then begin to understand the standpoint of those employees. They say, by the way, we have no issue with you as the police. Now, that's very fundamental. It's like they want to remind everybody, including the police, that in a democracy, workers negotiate with the employers. The police should not be this shield between employees' rights and employers' obligations. The very interesting part about it is when the negotiation between General Pembe and some of the worker leaders, including Tsineni Noki, the so-called man in the green blanket, Mambush. Now, when it is clear that the employees have put their position, look, if you want to disarm us, it's okay, but you need to escort us from here to the mountain. General Mpembe reaches a stage where he says, now let me get you straight. Are you saying if we escort you to the mountain, when you get there, you'll hand over the weapons to us? And they say yes. And at that point, he gets a telephone call.
The police have given them ample time.
In fact, when one looks at that clip, this attitude is radical before and after that phone call.
Hey, ngifuna imkhonto. Ngifuna imkhonto. Phela yonke into and manje mangingatholi imkhonto ngeke ngimdedele. Ngiyakaunta ke. Ngiyakaunta.
They go into their song and they just get up and they go. And again, to his credit, at that point, General Mpembe doesn't say, shoot these buggers. He allows them. They march and they simply provide a corridor.
This group of miners were walking slowly, deliberately. From the video footage you see, they don't seem to pose any threat. Suddenly, you see tear gas being fired, one of the nyalas, some shots fired. They get ignored. They just keep going. And there's a line of police jogging alongside them on the one side. There's armored vehicles. Keeps going. Another volley of shots and tear gas, and the miners crack and break. And in that chaos, 3 miners are killed. One of whom seems to have been stabbed to death. And it's unclear who caused that death, in what circumstances. Also, 2 cops get caught up and get killed.
2 strikers were not killed at the scene. 2 strikers were killed perhaps 300 meters, another 800 meters from that scene. My interpretation is that these 2 strikers were fleeing and running away from the scene and were pursued by police officers. One in particular, I believe that when he was perhaps 800 meters away from the scene and was running through a river and up the bank on the other side, I believe he was targeted by a police officer and was shot, and I describe that as being an execution.
It's 2 days before the massacre. Already a total of 9 people have been killed, with the latest, a NUM official being marked by a cow's skull, a sign of a traitor. Conflict between the strikers and NUM goes from bad to worse.
We did not anticipate this type of violence, and I don't think any organization in this country could ever anticipate this type of violence, because it's not normal. So that's why we're looking and searching and using the police, particularly the crime intelligence, to understand the root cause of the situation.
Why the use of police force armed to the teeth against 2,000-3,000 miners who were not occupying mining property or territory, were not occupying any strategic point, were not blocking the national highway or any minor road?
I'm not at all sure why they brought in a hostage negotiator to try and negotiate with 3,000 strikers. It does seem bizarre, particularly as the strikers who always said, we want to negotiate, but we want to negotiate with management.
They are coming.
Okay, they're coming forward, but 5 people coming forward.
They are coming, Colonel. Everybody.
Okay.
The National Police Commissioner ordered Lonman to produce photographs of the demonstrators. She then ordered Lonman to identify the ringleaders.
I need to indicate that the management did assist me to identify some of the strikers, and the others said that they will also continue to assist me to identify them from the photos.
But what is clear is that the person that they would have identified, because he was the main negotiator, is Mr. Noki, the man in the green blanket. What we know about Mr. Noki is that he has 14 bullet holes in him. He is dead.
Kaze funa umqhatshazelo urazosiphendula ngemali esifunayo kuphela sikwazi ukuvuka emsebenzini kodwa engekasiphendula imali esifunayo asizisuka apha singazisuswa ngabo lamaphoyisa lapha.
But Lonman continued to refuse to meet the strikers. What happened next was only discovered a year into the commission, when the police were ordered to hand over files that they had hidden. It is a transcript of a conversation that took place 2 days before the massacre between an executive of Lonmin and the Provincial Commissioner of Police. It reveals the state and Lonmin putting their heads together on how to break the strike before it spread to other mines.
We need to act such that we kill this thing.
Immediately, yes.
When tomorrow we have to move in, if today we do not find cooperation in these people, we need to move in such that we kill it.
So I agree with you, Commissioner. If we can arrest these people, because the longer it goes, it It is giving all the other opportunists to comment and seize the opportunity, and then it gets out of control.
That is it.
So I think yes. Let tomorrow be the D-Day where we issue the ultimatum and say, if you do not show up for work, sorry, that is it.
Did it ever cross your mind to, go to the mountain, to speak to the workers?
I prefer not to answer that one, because if I ever go to give evidence, I'll have to deal with things like that.
Email communication was uncovered at the Commission, showing Cyril Ramaphosa energetically lobbying government ministers to increase police presence and pressing for action to be taken against the miners.
Chairperson, we have in our possession emails that were being exchanged between the mine management, the government, the Minister of Minerals and Energy, which talk about discussions with the Minister of Police, at the center of which is a gentleman called Cyril Ramaphosa.
Cyril Ramaphosa writes about the discussions he had with the Minister of Mining, Susan Shabangu.
She agrees that what we are going through is not a labor dispute, but a criminal act. She is going into cabinet and will brief the president as well and get the Minister of Police, Natim Tetwa, to act in a more pointed way. Let's just keep the pressure on them to act correctly.
I'm interrupting you, but what is the date of that email that you...
It is the 15th of August, 2:58, exactly 24 hours before the people were mowed down at that mountain. Cyril Ramaphosa. At the heart of this was the toxic collusion between the SAPS and Lonmin at the direct level. At a much broader level, it can be called a collusion between the state and capital.
After Lonmin management make a commitment to leaders of the two unions, NUM and UMCU, that they are now willing to talk to the strikers if they lay down their arms, UMCU President Joseph Mutunjwa and Senzeni Sakwane from NUM arrive in Marikana to mediate.
Joseph Mutunjwa told me that he confidently expected that when he arrived that there would be a meeting between himself, Mr. Sakwane, and the Lonmin management. Instead, what he found was General Mpembe. He asked, would the trade union leaders go up to the mountain to speak to the strikers and to say, leave your arms there, leave the mountain, just leave. A small delegation from NUM went first, and they went in an armored truck. And the armored truck approached the mountain, and the strikers were told that inside the truck was the president of the National Union of Mine Workers, and that he wasn't getting out of the truck. It was clear from the reception that they simply didn't want him. They did not want him there. Well, Joseph had a much better reception. Again, he was not allowed by the police to get out of the armored truck.
To get into the hard body, and then just in front of them, they stand there.
No, what we
inside.
No, what we simply say, you can come with your Nyala, but we'll just walk. On our own, we just go and talk to them.
No. The general decision was no.
These are human beings. These are human beings.
headway, and the strikers came to him and said, look, it's late in the day, it's getting dark. What we'd like you to do is to come back at 9 o'clock in the morning. But more significantly, he was telling them that if they were to leave the mountain, then management would address their grievances. In other words, at least speak to them. So he went back and he reported that both to the police and to the London management. And in fact, what Joseph Matunja says is that they were really optimistic. I mean, General Mpembe, he said, in fact, saluted him and said, well done. And one of the other London managers said, yes, congratulations, maybe we can do that. And so there was a sort of chink. There was a light there. There was something that could be developed.
Remember that we said our intention is to disarm the people, and also our intention is to make sure the people that they leave that illegal gathering area where they are, and that is what we will do today. And I said to you, we wish that we will do that still amicable, meaning we will ask them to leave. But then, I don't want to explain to you if they don't, what then. What I told you is, today we are ending this matter.
The most foreboding indication of the intentions of those who placed an order for 4 mortuary vans from the morgue. What else are you anticipating? It's a statement of anticipation of what is going to happen.
Can we now please move on to the morning of 16 August 2012?
We then requested one of the security to call Mr. Kwadi and to advise him that we have arrived. As we were inside the office, he said he doesn't have a good news for us. He was referring to the commitment made by the management that once the workers renounce violence, leave arms, and return back to work peacefully, the management will engage to their grievances.
The strikers were expecting talks to begin with longmen. Instead, all around them, the police presence was building up.
The question I ask you is this. The decision that you say you took to implement stage 3, was that decision taken because there had been an escalation? Or was it taken even though there hadn't been an escalation? That's the question. What's the answer?
Chairperson, according to paragraph 23, no escalation. But what...
Fine. So your answer is the decision to implement stage 3, which you say you took, and conveyed to the Provincial Commissioner, was taken not because of escalation, but just the fact that even though there wasn't escalation.
Joseph Matunja had spent the day trying to persuade management to talk. But by mid-afternoon, he'd realized there was no hope.
bayachip bayosibulala basigqibe baphinde futhi bathola abanye babafake bababhadale lemivuzo enenzinto empilweni zomuntu omnyama okungukuthi siyobe sihlulekile kodwa amakepitali yoba yiwona winayo kodwa sinendlela esenikhombisa yona ukuthi nayo indlela kufanele kuhanjwe ngayo siyaqala-ke bafowethu odadewethu bodada ndiyaguqa ngedolo ndiza kuni ngingento yalutho ndithi masivikele leli gazi i-NUM esavumelene nomqashi ukuba maliphalale asifuni igazi elizophalala kodwa sifuna izinkinga zenu nemivuzo yenu mayitholakale comrade.
I still remember vividly the face of those workers. I still remember my words I said. When Xolani Mkambi of ETV asked me, what now? I said, all this is in God's hands. I'm a mortal man. Those were my words. I'm a mortal man. God.
Yasuki hippie bipa yaqhothi raise wire ukuhla xa ifika pha yaphela straight ne hippie bipa yesibini yafika nale yadonga la raise wire yehla nayo kuyaphansi sithe mayipha phansi xa cabi yapha ngesibayeni sathi no siyavalela comrade masihambeni
umuntu owayethethile lolo umamboshi watsho wathi basebenzi ungcono sihambe kule ndawo akalantu kuyakhupha imipu masimkeni kule ndawo kodwa singabalekile ngoba senza nganto la madoda sizitholele ingoma yethu toti sijothi siyofika kwindawo zethu zokuhlala nyani yatsho ingoma abantu bahamba
ulapho sithe masiyapha duze ne-opposite nesibaya sabe sifika sivala kwezihipo
ukufa into endandiyijongile ngoku ndandibona uba nyhani ngoku ndiyafa qha ndifa ndingenzanga nto fe ndingayolelanga noyolela ekhaya kwaye kukufa endandijongene naye bona uba ndifela imali.
15 to 20 minutes after the initial shooting, when all the commanders should have said, "What? You've shot how many people? Stand down. Stand down." They went and carried on hunting down people for 20 minutes. When I saw what the Commission and the police call Scene 2, which is the small copy several hundred meters away from the stuff we saw on television, it was clear that this was nothing like what had happened at the first scene.
Into eyenzekayo abantu babethi kwexesha baxhome izandla bacela uxolo badutyulwe.
The police seemed to stick to their self-defense story. They kept repeating the same thing, even though it was blindingly obvious, and you had dozens of witnesses talking about people trying to surrender, being killed, repeatedly shot as they were trying to surrender, not just once, coming up 2, 3 times with their hands, shot repeatedly.
Sifune mali safaze topego sifune mali sifune mali sifune mali safaze topego sifune mali sifune mali Sifune mali, sifune mali, sifune mali, sifune mali, sifune mali, sifune mali, yepi mali. Safaze topego, sifune mali. Sifune mali, sifune mali.
Let us take note of the fact that whatever happened represents the best of responsible policing. You did what you did because you were being responsible. You were making sure that you continue to live your oath of ensuring that South Africans are safe and that you equally are a citizen of this country and safety starts with you.
It is the time to point finger, in the first place, to point finger at those whose fingers pulled the trigger, but the foot soldiers, what about those who pull the strings, who give the orders, and who are they? Tell me, who are they? Minister of Police? President? He's got to answer. This is what we want to see from a commission, and the president, and the ministers in a security cluster. I've been there, I know how it works. And if the police carry this out without that kind of instruction, then what are they guilty of in terms of the way they dealt with that situation? You see, heads need to roll at a very high level.
South Africa, back in the bad old days of '75. He told us about the brothers working underground, when the beast they called apartheid was still alive. But out in the platinum belt, some things don't seem to change. Out on strike one day in the August heat, the miners stood in horror on the picket line, with 34 stone-dead comrades at their feet. In Marikana, the miners stood their ground in Marikana. Policemen shot them down. Well, the mining bosses didn't want to hear demands of AMCU recognition and better pay. They told the police they could do just what they liked, as long as they pushed that picket line away. Where is the justice? Where's equality? If you got no right to strike, you ain't got no liberty. In Marikana, the miners stood their ground in Marikana. Policemen shot them down.